Ciao and welcome back to this very special episode of the iMovie podcast, in which this week we're not so much talking about one film as about many of them. And there's no specific... I mean, I guess the reason for this is that it's something we were discussing it off camera, and we were like, it would be interesting to talk about on camera.
Exactly.
And the topic we're talking about is each of us will list our 10 best films we've ever seen.
Which is not our favorite.
No, that's important. I mean,
top.
There's a few clarifications we have to make, but that's one of the important ones. So the reason that they're the best can be for different reasons. It can be the most impactful, the best made technically, or the most impressive. And I think we've probably done it in different ways, but it's not necessarily a personal list. It's more objective. For example, I think there's one film on my list I didn't give 5 stars to on Letterboxds.
Me too.
For example.
There are a few that I didn't.
And so that's because maybe they're not 5-star for us personally, but they're films that we can appreciate as being incredible and among the best we've seen. And again, this is also, by the way, a matter of opinion, of course, so there's no reason to.
And there is another important premise. We haven't seen all the films in the world. So for me, even like there are some like Tarkovsky. I never watched any of his films. I'm sorry.
He
won't be there.
And also, for example, I think it's also worth saying like we have our Letterboxds in the in our bio. So if you're watching this video and you think, oh, you missed out a film, like a really obvious film that should be on there. You can check on to see if we've actually seen it, and if we have, then okay, maybe we missed something. But if we haven't, then that's obviously why. So obviously it's a very limited list because we've not seen that many films.
Yeah, and that's why also in the end we decided to go through the top 250 films because we're missing for sure some big films. This said, I
don't know if many would move from this. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say.
I think
and also, this was very hard for me, at least. I mean, we talked about it for both of us. It's very difficult. Also, we had to, because you also have to take different things into account, and I had to cut some films I really didn't want to cut. But so before we get into it, and I guess we'll go from 10 downwards and go one by one. I was going to ask you whether you had any clarifications or specifications about the way you did your list that you want to talk about.
No, but I think we will discuss. I think it will come out through our discussion, to be honest. I don't think that's going to... I think we just have to get into it and that's it.
Okay.
Because then I think a lot of things will come out. So...
I had one... Well, I actually had one thing is that I haven't... There's a lot of like... And it's like documentary or documentary adjacent. So like they can be fiction, but it's... For example, I'm thinking of films like The Battle of Algiers, Chronique d'Année. And
I thought about those two.
There's a few others. Those could be a couple of others that I wanted to mention. Watermelon Woman. And I mean, if... those are all great films, but... I think there's a couple of others I wanted to think about it. Act of Killing, of course. Yeah, Act of Killing was the main one.
It's in my top 4.
But none of those are on my list because for me, I was more focused on pure fiction. And those all have fictional elements, but I was like, okay, I'm not going to include them for that reason, which is harsh. But if we were doing another list, I definitely would. But in this one, I had to make some hard choices. Yeah. And another thing is... I haven't included anything in a serialized format. For example, Twin Peaks: The Return. I haven't included because it's great, but it's too long, and like there's only so many things you can include. So I wanted to save the spaces for things that are unquestionably fictional films.
So I have to say that about your first premise, I didn't respect it because for me one of these is the top 250.
It's a different...
Because I consider it a film. It's not a documentary. What I chose.
But it's different lists, different people, different lists. We have...
Although, Chronicle d'été... I thought about then we can discuss about these things because also we will have I think a final session like a section of mentioning some that unfortunately heartbroken couldn't put in our list.
Exactly,
but,
which we shouldn't mention before because that will give away which ones are on the list, I think, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, exactly. No, yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
we can do it there.
yeah.
But also, if you're watching at home and you want to play along, please tell us your top 10 and tell us whether you agree or not with our picks and what you would have changed and which films you would have included that we didn't, and vice versa. Do you want to start with your 10th? Or?
Allora, my 10th, I have my list on my phone, a spoiler. But
I've gone analog.
Yeah, I didn't have time to translate it into paper. But the 10th, my 10th is Princess and Princesses by Michel Ocelot. Made in 2000. Which, if you don't know, like, it's an animated film. It doesn't last long. It's actually like 4 episodes put together.
4 short stories.
Yeah, 4 short stories. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not too much for the story itself, but it's for the style. I think it's amazing because it's so simply made. It's like these figures, just black paper, put on a...
It's kind of black and blue color scheme.
Yes, no, it's like on a background. There is the how do you call it? Like, not this
I know what you mean. It's kaleidoscopic or whatever.
No. What I mean is just like the background. The background is with different scenarios, blah blah, different colors, but even not that many. It's very simple. And then you have these black figures that is like a paper, flat paper, something like that, that represents the characters or what is happening in the scene. And then it's just the camera and the voice. It's not much, really. Like, it's the most simple thing, and it's visually amazing. I think that's something that I think it's great because it's like a simple concept, simple tools, and you're creating a magic world, and then for me it's worth being in top 10.
No, that's cool.
And also, between I think it's like 4 stories, or in any case, there is like a break in the middle. And it's like, it appears like I don't remember now exactly, but it's like a break, maybe
because it's like
stage curtain.
Aren't they kids like creating stories?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Kids creating stories with an adult who helps them to work on the audio part or the storytelling. But they're creating the story. They're playing with this. They are like in this non anymore used cinema or theater, and they use the tools that are there. It's simple but so effective. And in between there is this break, and it gives the spectator the time to take a break.
And because I saw this film when I was very young, and I remember some of it is quite creepy or dark.
See,
I don't remember exactly, but I remember when I saw it as a kid, it was
as in a classic film.
Fairy tale.
Maybe
but darker maybe than usual. But because
I don't know if darker than usual.
There's one about the witch who like zaps people.
Yeah, there are different stories, but
no, yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
good
so it's like, I think this is cinema. So that's my 10th.
But that's not on my list.
I imagine.
But that's a good choice. But I had difficult choice in 10th because there were like a few films competing for that spot, but the one that I really couldn't avoid putting in for the one I've chosen in the end was Psycho. Have you got it on your Hitchcock Psycho?
I got it on my...
Do you want to say which place you have it? Or
I will reveal it at the end also because I don't remember exactly.
Okay. No, because I didn't want to not include it because firstly, I think Hitchcock is a very important filmmaker, and also technically very brilliant, so should be in the conversation of best, most influential director. And again, that term influential is that when I'm thinking of what the best film is, I think it's also, I haven't chosen that many older films. I've chosen some, but for me, Psycho has to be on the list because it's my favourite Hitchcock, and it's the fact of the way in which it, creates tension. I think we've already talked about it on the channel. Is incredible, and especially the
The structure.
No, I was going to say like the impact it had on the thriller genre. I think it's so influential, and I think if you really look at some of the shots from this, whether it's the cut from the eye into the shower sink, or the two murder scenes, or even like the rain falling on the car windowsill when Janet's driving to the motel. All of those visual cues have become so ingrained into the thriller genre that it's almost like the equivalent of what Shakespeare is to theatre in a way, is that the language of Psycho, the cinematic language of Psycho has become is maybe one of the most influential films of all time, that every thriller that's come out since then has somehow to thank for Psycho in the way in which the dialogue is written, the way in which tension is built, often without music as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just incredible film. And also, because I didn't include a Hitchcock, I also thought about Vertigo, but in the end, I think I prefer Psycho, so I went for Psycho. And yeah, it had to be. There were other films I considered somewhat unlucky to miss out, but for me, it has to be on the list.
Yeah, but also I think even it's my ninth, by the way, so it's the next one.
Yeah,
it is for me, and also the composition of the image, like as we mentioned multiple times, when. At the beginning, Janet,
yeah,
and Norman Bates meet in the room of the hotel, and he's surrounded by crows and eagles birds, and stuffed birds in general. You see like the power of Hitchcock as a director, how he cares for little details, and you're creating like you're really like creating a perfect picture that then translates into video, into film, but at the beginning is a perfect picture, and that's his, I think, one of his great powers.
Do you go out with friends?
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
But I think it's interesting because I think it's a pretty perfect film. Like, there's some films above it on my list that are probably technically less well made, and the only reason that they're above it is, I think, because as art, they have other things over Psycho. Like, they're more interpretative, or there's more depth to them, more layered, let's say. Whereas Psycho is a genre film, basically. It has it has a lot of subtext, Freudian subtext and stuff, but it's first and foremost, I think, the intention of the film is as a thriller.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant at that. That's what I mean. If you put it in the top 10 best films of all time, it's not like a criticism at all. So
no.
Yeah, but I definitely had to have it on the list.
Exactly. See, yeah, I agree completely, because I also thought first I need to have a Hitchcock because in any case he's great, and he's been great in the whole cinema history, but also I agree with the story is super well made and built, and it's interesting, and it keeps you like engaged all the time. And also the plot twists are crazy good. It's extremely good. But I agree. Something that I'm not saying is missing, but because it wasn't probably in the intention of Hitchcock at all. But something that is missing maybe for me in general, for being at the top of the top 10, it's maybe a political meaning, I guess, behind it, or
something that makes you work more as the audience, at least. Yeah, exactly. I agree. I mean, the films above that mostly tend to have that for me, in some way or another.
Yeah.
But it also has that brilliant ending of the superimposed skull, the famous last shot. And also, similarly to Prince et Princesse, I mean, not similarly, but it's also black and white by choice, not by because of some. It's not because there was no technology. It was a choice in order to include some things. Like Prince et Princesse is a dual color scheme by choice. Yeah. So it's interesting. The first two films you've chosen are both
simpler,
purposefully restricting their own visual for some different aesthetic purposes.
Yeah.
So
and yet that appeals it's to you. Effective. Yeah.
That's true.
That's true. So what is your ninth, actually?
Okay, your ninth is Psycho.
Yeah.
My ninth, I have to check.
I'm not looking.
My
We try
ninth.
to avoid the spoilers all the time.
Oh, my ninth is. I hesitated again. Some great films I've left off, but my ninth was Petit Maman by Céline Sciamma. I at first I wasn't sure whether to choose this film because I think the one thing that I would put against it is quite a short film, so it's almost quantified as a short film. I think it's like an hour and 5-10 minutes or something. So it's,
No, really?
yeah.
I'm going to check how many minutes right now.
It's, if I'm not wrong, it is.
So short.
But I wanted to include a Céline Sciamma film because I love the way in which she deals with human stories. I think she's one of the best character writers I've ever seen in film terms, maybe the best, because her characters feel completely real, completely...
Yeah, 72 minutes.
Yeah, it's an hour and 12 minutes. That's really short. That was my
Crazy.
biggest issue with it, but in the end I had to include it. Quite sober stories, maybe with the exception of Portrait of a Lady on Fire, but they always seem to strike an emotional chord, maybe because they often deal with childhood and teenage issues that are universally relatable in some sense or another. And for me, Petite Maman, I just remember that it really... It's a strange film, I think, to put in the best 10 films of all time, because it's quite a small film, but it had such an emotional effect, I think, on me. And yeah, I don't know, again, like I said, the writing is so on point, especially in the relationships, both between the two main characters and also with actually the main character's father and her. It doesn't fall into any traps of being of dramatic cliche, which it really stays away from.
Yeah.
I assume you also have it on your list. You don't have it?
Mm-mm. It's in
But
the top 4.
I'm really surprised.
No, of course, I put it in the list of the top films before actually writing down my top 10. And when I noticed that it wasn't space, I thought, fuck. But because, of course, it's in my top 4. It's probably my second favorite ever, personally. But I thought universally, maybe there is something that is... I don't know if better... I don't know, because also I thought I want a Céline Sciamma in the top 10.
Do you have one?
To be honest, no, I have not.
You
No,
don't?
no, because it's my favorite, so that would have been the one.
Mm.
And... but yeah, I don't know. At the end I didn't choose.
No,
one,
yeah.
but,
It's tough.
but I might change it throughout this discussion because...
It's funny because when I was playing in my mind, like between Psycho and Petit Maman, like the other two films I was thinking about, I'll say it now, were Children of Men and Parasite, which are much bigger films, like much more ambitious storytelling. But and for me, it was like, yeah, they're both obviously brilliant films. Like, I don't have a bad word to say about any of these films, basically. But I thought Petit Maman actually touches you more by doing less, or by telling a less ambitious story, and that's probably the hardest thing to do, to be so on point with the writing and with the human detail that it's universally affecting, or I mean, it manages to affect you even without any real dramatic impetus. So that's why I include it above. Although I have to say that the other two films also technically are probably a bit above, but I've always gone for the human aspect above as more important. So that's why I've included it. But those two films I also wanted to mention.
See, but I understand, even if, I don't know, because Parasite, okay, to be honest, I should absolutely watch it because I don't remember too many things. But no, it's true, Petit Maman is, I mean, like, really, it's one of my favorite films, so I don't know why. I think, like, because maybe it's something that doesn't convince me 100% in terms of the best films ever. As in, maybe the relationship with the mom, the magical aspect of it could be interesting, but maybe not completely developed. on the other side, it really touches human chords 100% in wonderful ways, in very straight, strong like a train. It's very, very intense and very emotionally involving. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I focus more a bit on also some technicalities, although first I'm not an expert, and second I think it's extremely well made in any case. Because
Well
as we
acted,
said,
I mean, as well.
extremely well acted, great script, beautiful colors, to be honest, and simple. It's true, like in 1 hour and 10 minutes you could convey a story that, to be honest, I started crying and never stopped from quite early in the film.
No, I'm surprised you haven't got it in. So, but yeah,
Me too. Maybe I will change my mind.
but no. So yeah, that's my number 9, and yeah, I understand. I also think I wouldn't probably have put it higher, but I thought it should be included. Also, because I think it's important to point out that not every film has to be dealing with elevated or dark subject matters to be brilliantly made, and I think it's a testament to the importance of good writing and good acting, and it's got some of the best of both that I've ever seen. So for that, I would put it in there.
I think when I put this film, I thought Clem would be like, "What? You put this film?"
Number 8. You're number 8. Okay, let's see.
I will go with
That's going to be Tarantino or something. Let's see. My number 8 is The Piano Teacher. Michael Haneke's The Piano Teacher. I actually wasn't going to include it at first. I had another film written in. And maybe that was like the bit where my bias slightly slipped in, because I had Stalker by Tarkovsky at first. And then just like earlier, I was like, no, I'm going to switch it out for The Piano Teacher because, because basically it's more my film. But it's not because it's my favourite, it's because I think I can make an argument for The Piano Teacher being it's better than Stalker. It's tough to say because Stalker's a really great film, but
it's different.
Maybe I've dedicated more thought to it, and therefore I can argue for it being better more convincingly.
Yeah, because that's another big topic. It's true that like some are great, but just we didn't or we didn't want. It happened not to discuss them much. Reflect too much upon them, or even just we watched, I don't know, maybe in situations that weren't the greatest to. But
I love obviously Haneke's films, and The Piano Teacher for me is it's because the way in which it tells. I think humanly, again, it's, as all his films are, for me, absolutely brilliant. It's brilliantly written, in my opinion, brilliantly acting. The reason for me edges Petite Maman is that it's, for me, a bit more engaging.
How do you mean?
I think
with you personally.
I think it manages to engage the viewer a bit more. Maybe I think both do, but that's where I would find the edge, because I think they're similar in that they're both very human films.
But because also maybe it's playing a lot with the edge. While Petite Maman is very comfortable in a certain way.
I think, it's for sure. I mean, like I said with Petite Maman, it's important to have the films that don't operate in that way.
Yeah.
But I don't know, so but for me, The Piano Teacher had to be a place above, I think. I could also switch them around. But,
you can also keep it.
But no, I don't know, it's, brilliant. I need to rewatch it as well because
You watched it once?
Yeah.
Me and I, we watched it together.
Yeah, but it made a big mark. And it wasn't so long ago, so I still have a decent memory. But it's on Mubi now,
maybe
so
1 year and a half or
I recommend also to the viewers to give it a check. It's really brilliant. I don't have so much to say about this.
Because also it has quite about delicacy. I didn't put it in my top... No. Spoiler, I didn't put it in my top 10. It's not my favorite of Haneke. And although... It's true, when we finished watching it, we were like, we couldn't stop not even thinking about it, but also discuss about it.
It's a brilliant film.
And because, one thing that maybe in general we could appreciate about Haneke is that you really need to discuss it first with someone. That would be great. Someone who, of course, more or less you can have a conversation about it with, maybe some same interest, let's say, in breaking down some films. And because then you can really explore different themes and analyze the different levels, because there is, of course, like the surface level as in most of films. And then you can go deeper and deeper. like with the white ribbon.
Yes, absolutely. And
Which I don't know
Cachet
if we can talk about it, but yeah, the white ribbon also
Yeah.
is at the beginning it took me a while to understand completely the story, and
Yeah.
that's something I think it's great in a film.
But and also there's been some great stuff written about this film that I've read and found really interesting. But yeah, no, so I don't have so much to say about that one, but definitely for me, in the end I switched it in for Stalker.
Which is great. I never watched it, but
Yeah, it is great.
I know you love it.
Yeah, but Stalker I probably would have to rewatch. Maybe I'd appreciate it more now. Let's see.
T'es fâché contre moi? J'espère que non. La lettre n'est pas très bien écrite, je sais. Je suis pianiste, pas poète.
I think it would be maybe fun to see either after the top 12 we finished our top 10 or 50
to redo
or maybe
this
even
list.
before,
We should
because I
rewatch
think so
some of
many
these
things
films.
will change for me for sure. Well, my 8th is the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Okay.
1975 by Jim Sharman. For me, it's I didn't give it 5 stars, I think, but I can imagine in those years when it came out, it probably had a huge impact. It's a weirdos playing absurd roles, being weird on a big screen in a very theatrical way, playing with the roles, both in terms of acting, of costumes, and costumes and design is great. Is greatly done. Music is super fun and engaging, and I don't even love the musical genre.
No,
it's not my thing.
Me neither.
And yet with this one I was very engaged. I liked it very much, although it's a musical and it's 100% a big musical. And I thought the colors are great, and I think they have also many references to some other films. And I don't know, I think overall is a mix of great elements, taken care of in details and everything, put all together, a beautiful mix. And so I say, yeah, what can I say? And a great impact.
And for the time it came out, I
for
think.
the time, it's crazy.
But better than Petite Mort. It's a better film than Petite Mort.
I think for what it is, see.
Okay.
Petite Maman, if I have to put it, it's higher. I mean, the next film, for example, that I will mention then, I wouldn't put it in my top. I haven't mentioned it yet. But Petite Maman could absolutely be, instead of, I don't know, Petite Maman again could be my top 3, honestly.
Favorites is
maybe the second, but also in the top 3. If it has to be in the top 10, it's in the top 3.
Interesting.
Or 4.
Interesting.
Just, I don't know why I thought...
No, I understand. Okay, but the Rocky Horror Picture Show, yeah, for me musicals just aren't really my thing, so I don't click with it. But I'm glad that
when I gave 4.5, I think, and Heart, he was like, "What? You gave so high?"
No, but I mean, I can see the value of it. But no, interesting choice.
Yeah.
No, I've been surprised by 2 of your choices so far. But of course, it's good.
You've seen all kinds of movies, but you've never seen anything like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah. But yes, I like.
To be honest, I don't remember that much about it. It's very camp, of course, and very vivacious. But no, cool.
And also so influential still now.
Yeah, no, that's definitely
it's great. True. That's beautiful.
And I think it represented a lot of marginalized people in a positive light that wasn't absolutely the norm. When did it come out? The 85?
75.
75.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Crazy. And if I'm wrong, the director is Australian, which I didn't expect. I thought it was more US, but actually I don't know.
Interesting. Okay. You want to do your...
I'd say the 7th because I said this is not in my real top 10, my favorite.
But you think it's the best on this?
But it's among the best. I don't know if it's actually the 7th could also be lower or switch with Psycho or I don't know.
No, I'm curious now.
But it's The Shining.
Okay. That's a good choice, I think.
I know.
Yeah, but above, yeah.
I don't know, but...
I don't know. I don't have it, just...
Above Psycho, I think so, yeah. Because...
good choice, though.
I don't know actually if it's better than Psycho, but the fact is, it's I don't have to explain.
It's
It's a
classic.
brilliant
It is
film. It's a
brilliant, yeah.
classic. It's the composition of the image is even
Maybe
more.
the scariest film ever, one of them at least.
Exactly,
It's gotta be in
the
the
thrill
conversation.
is real. It's crazy. The billion of the composition of the image again of the picture, even more. I don't know, explicit than in Psycho, which made me put it higher because he's also
Yeah, yeah.
playing with it. He's like putting you in the face and saying, "See, this is all squared, all blah blah." It's creepy, and it's effective, brilliant
acting,
acting, and we
yeah,
can't even
fantastic.
mention it. It's so brilliant that we know what happened to Cheryl Duval,
Yeah.
and even the child is so good. I have never watched it in a cinema. I would really like to have this experience.
It's very nice,
with
especially if you
45
see it.
minutes.
It's like
Really
5 minutes.
we did when we were together, but I couldn't. And brilliant. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
have much to
there's
say.
no.
And it's
Absolutely,
okay,
it's entirely
yeah.
bad. But I think
And Kubrick deserves, I think, to be in the top 10.
yeah, but I would have
It's
put
okay.
2000. I would have put either 2001 or Doctor Strangelove.
But I haven't seen neither of the two,
No.
and that's what
But no, that's fine.
hurts to say. But yeah,
But no, The Shining is brilliant, like really. And I also considered it for a bit. It's yeah, absolutely. I think it's a brilliant choice. And to have it seventh, above Psycho, is also fair enough. I think because in some ways it does go above and beyond. But yeah, I don't know.
I think I don't know. It dares more because he wants to. It's also a bit. I think his personality. While Hitchcock is more like, I love what I'm doing, but I stay in a even like within a frame that I decide. Hitchcock decide. Kubrick is more like I want to do more. I show you more. Like even like the scene where the blood flows in the corridor. Hitchcock wouldn't have done it. He's not.
No,
it's not
definitely.
his interest.
Yeah, I mean it's a bit more
he likes to
surreal.
play within. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that element
No, I
like-
agree. That's a good point, actually.
How do you like it?
It is a bit more surreal, but for me, yeah, I don't know. I think it's the impact of Psycho and the historical context and how effective I find it to be. And also maybe more rewatchable. I don't know. If you ask me like which film would you watch today, I'd probably like Psycho and The Shining. Usually, I think I'd more often pick Psycho.
Yeah, no, okay, me too.
I don't know.
Me too.
But maybe
but
that's
also
not the
because
best.
it's,
So yeah, maybe I've done the wrong list.
No, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's
But they're both great
subjective.
films, so it's difficult,
crazy
yeah.
also to make lists sometimes. But yeah, no, I also would actually recommend Psycho, but because also the plot twist is crazy and they are so well made.
Yeah. No,
While
but,
Shining
yeah,
is
sure.
more linear, you can see where you're going.
Yeah,
step
but it
by
still remains effective. And Jack Nicholson,
it's great.
Shelley Duvall, they're just fantastic.
No, it's beautiful.
But yeah, so we will move on. Have I said my seventh?
No, you have to.
Okay.
Can you make me guess?
It's the only animated film on my list.
Princess Mononoke!
And it's Princess Mononoke. Do you have it?
You wouldn't know.
Oh, but if you have
I
it.
have
Okay.
7th.
Yeah, seventh.
I thought he would have put it like 4th maximum.
I thought about putting it higher,
But
but I couldn't argue it above the films above.
okay.
Somehow. I don't know. It's not a criticism for Mononoke at all. Like, I think it's brilliant.
I won't say where is mine.
Every time I tried to mentally like say, oh, but is it better than that? I couldn't like. But I mean, yeah, it's a fantastic film. One of my favorites ever. The soundtrack, the
also it's one of your
story, the maturity of the story, the different layers. I mean, we have a whole video about it, but the themes of
It's true.
humanity and nature and
We put here in the
the
video.
fact that neither is idealized or entirely criticized, but both are shown as
Yeah.
being
So-
yeah, you know, partially benevolent and partially corrupted.
So it's perfect, a perfect societal criticism.
Yeah. Brilliant animation.
Done with maturity, accessible to both adults and children. Great animation. We have even to mention it.
Brilliant soundtrack.
Brilliant soundtrack. Is of 97, so in any case, it's quite old and still remains great. Female roles, cool ones, because that's, to be honest, something that we don't have to take for granted because
interesting story, engaging, also on story level.
Absolutely. Power to the animals and nature.
Yeah.
Something that anti-speciesism sometimes is something that we put in.
I mean, you don't.
Bag.
Oh yeah, it's.
I don't know. What do we? I don't even know many criticisms.
There's not.
It's great.
It's a 5 stars. I mean, it's fantastic, brilliant film.
Yeah, no, it's really, In fact,
but is
he was
it?
eating my list.
That's good.
Although it's not necessarily my favorite of Miyazaki.
No, I know.
Because for me, I think my favorite in terms of how much it impacted me. But the first thing, in a certain way, it's House Moving Castle. That I think it was also my first Miyazaki in general. And when I learned about some things and some symbolisms, my mind went pew. So for me, I fell in love. 1. And 2, actually the one that I clicked with the most, I think, in a certain way. In a very childish way. So my inner child clicked with it is Kiki's Delivery Service. So those two for me are above Princess Mononoke, but not in this list.
Interesting.
Maybe.
I expected you to include at least one of them. Okay. Yeah, I won't ask anymore. But for me, it had to be included. And also, I think if I had to say a reason why it's not higher, it's probably because somehow I've got a bias against animation when it comes to best lists. So that's probably the reason. Let me just see the films I've got above. Yeah, because somehow the films I've got above are, I don't know, they're more adult in a way, but I also think it's brilliant for Simona because it's accessible to more audiences. But yeah, it's not criticism, as I say, these films are all brilliant anyway, so yeah. Go on now,
So it's time for my number 6, and my number 6 is Festen, aka The Celebration. 1998 by Thomas Vinterberg, movement Dogma.
Yeah, Dogma.
I don't know how to pronounce it. 95.
I don't have it.
We watched it together, I imagined. Just because I thought
you would have
put something different. I also thought about having it, not having it. I don't know. But I thought first, it represents also maybe a geographical area.
Yeah.
With an interesting style and an interesting mentality sometimes. Second, it's a whole movement that I like. I think, yes, at this point what comes out is that I quite like minimalist cinema in a certain way, because after saying that, yes, Princess Mononoke is one of my favorite, blah, blah. But it's like simple. It's more like the idea, the concept, and the fact that cinema is accessible to many potentially. Could be an art of the people. It depends. But potentially, okay, is a like a smaller camera that you can bring around.
Yeah.
You have the concept, the quality is whatever it is, and yet it makes sense. And it's built greatly, acting perfect, plot
engaging.
Twist, absolutely engaging. Yes, doesn't
really
last too long.
Engaging. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant film, of course.
And it's
Yeah, could have been on my list, but it's fantastic. Yeah, brilliant film.
And we watched it together.
Great choice. So.
1 year ago. 1 year ago.
A bit more than a year ago now.
1 year, a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was we were both like, what? Also, we watched it just after having watched the Challengers, which we didn't like. Yeah. Crazy enough.
But no, it's actually like, I think another we went into it not knowing much about it, or not having much context. But brilliant film. Brilliant.
I didn't even know about the Dogma 95.
Yeah.
I didn't even think. So
I'd seen another one of Intervog's films.
Yeah.
I'd seen The Hunt.
I have not
But
yet.
I preferred Festen, actually.
Festen is great. Also,
That's
it
pretty
deals
brilliant.
with... I liked also that I criticize the hypocrisy of, wealthy, but not even wealthy, just families, big families that pretend to be, you are the greatest, of course, we are all together. And then you see the rotten inside.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
But with a very Scandi way, as in not sentimental in any way. It's like quite cold and and by the way this happened.
But also criticizing that
that
coldness, I think, in some sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Kommer lige en taxa. Gå lige ud og tjekker det.
Hey, hop. Hey, Charlie Brown. Du er vist kommet helt galt i byen, hva'? Hold da kæft.
But also within, I mean, it's still where they come from somehow. It's what you part of who you are, I guess. You're laughing for your sixth.
No, absolutely. That's a good choice. Very good choice. So that's Letty's sixth best film. You've had some good ones on your list.
I can't deny that.
That's true. My number 6 is a film you haven't seen. Could be higher. I think it's probably the first one on my list that you could argue it to be number 1.
Even if I haven't watched it.
Yeah. I know, for me, it could be argued in general to be number 1. But I put it number 6 because maybe I've only seen it once, so I need to maybe rewatch it, but it's really brilliant. Is An Elephant Sitting Still.
I knew they would have been there. Yeah. It's okay, 6.
So this is a film by Xu Bo, who's a Chinese director who committed suicide just after the release of this film, so it's been interpreted by some of the suicide note. It's a sprawling mix of different stories. Think Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia, but set in China. They all kind of tie together around a different people who need to escape somehow. It's also 4 hours long, so it's quite
it's a mission.
It's a mission.
It's a challenge.
But it's a brilliant film. Really fantastic. Again, on human levels. It's got a certain almost I don't know how to say, but it's got kind of magical ambiguity to it that really makes it stick with you. It's like a blend of hyper-realistic kind of human emotional drama mixed with elements of surreality or like these strange coincidences and extreme happenings. Like think Park Chan-wook, but more toned down. Maybe in terms of style. Much more toned down.
Interesting, considering that maybe the style of Park Chan-wook is something that...
Yeah, but
one of his
it's like...
elements.
If instead of Park Chan-wook being like 90-10, no, like 70-10, like extreme and... like 70% extreme and 30% human, it's the other way around, if that makes sense.
Oh, then beautiful.
I don't know how to... But yeah, no, brilliant. And I recommend it, absolutely. And also because the story behind it is a very interesting one, I think. But yeah, no, I don't want to go on too long because we've already talked a lot, and you haven't seen it. But I think anyone who's seen it will appreciate what a brilliant film it is, and you should see it soon. So... should I do my number 6 or you want to?
You do your 6. No, your
my
fifth.
No, yeah, we're halfway
You're already
through.
in top 5. Interesting
Yeah.
to say like top 5. It's already like it gives a different tones.
Yeah, it's crazy. This is the 5th best film ever. It's a brilliant film. My number 5. I imagine it's on your list too, and you haven't mentioned it yet. But I might be wrong. It's so my number 5 is another Haneke, White Ribbon. Yeah, it's just brilliant. So it's another. It's the story of
Interesting, this choice that you made.
Interesting.
It was because you made in my head now you had 3 Haneke in the top 10.
That's up to you. that we'll see. It's a brilliant. It's quite a sprawling story of a village that's been struck by a series of murder. But like always with Hanukkah, there's a lot of themes under the surface about, especially about childhood and the White Ribbon. I think, or about the way in which children are treated in society and the effects it has, or the implied effects it has. I've written about this film quite extensively. There's also been some brilliant writings about this film, so again, I can post them. Again, it's like this humanity, ambiguity. It's engaging. It's mysterious. It's one of those films that makes you think about it, and that's really the quality I love in art and in a lot of these films, is that they really stay in your mind and you want to figure them out for. And I think that's the case for each of my top 5, which is why they're the top 5, maybe. You want to figure them out for weeks after you've watched them. And White Ribbon couldn't be any lower than 5th. Could have been higher, though, for me. But yeah.
It's probably my favorite of Haneke. I'm not sure, but it could be my favorite of Haneke. Although it's not in my top 10.
Okay. Interesting.
Even if I thought, of course, about putting it in.
You don't have a Haneke in your top 10?
I do have a Haneke.
Okay.
And it's actually my 5th, so I can say it already is Cachet for me.
Okay.
Which I'm a plot twist, because Cachet, it's normally his favorite movie. And in the beginning, when the first time I watched it, I didn't necessarily click too much with it. But then I remember specifically, I watched it twice, I think.
Yeah, maybe it was 3 times, I don't know.
Or maybe 3 times, I don't know. And I remember once that we were walking from my house to his house and apartment. And we were so engaged and I liked like how my mind... First... what I was saying, that I didn't expect that I was saying. I was like, oh my god, that's good thinking. And I thought, fuck, that's good work by Haneke. And of course, like what he was saying in general, since he loves him. And I tend to very much like how Clement analyzes things and films. Specifically with Cachet, of course, there's a lot to say. And for me, it was like, yeah, okay. This film is very important. And therefore, I put it instead of the White Ribbon, which at first thought it would have been my first choice.
They're different. Cachet is a smaller story in a sense, but
it deals...
I can tell you right now, I've got Cachet higher than the White Ribbon as well. So.
Really?
I agree with you on that one. It would be surprising if I hadn't put it on the list at all. That would have been the real plot twist, worthy of Haneke himself.
But I'm glad that you put it. But see, the White Ribbon, also what I think it's more in my tones is also because it deals with education of children.
Was willst du?
Ich hätte eine Bitte, Herr Vater.
Ja? Ja?
Ich habe ihn gefunden. Er hat sich wehgetan.
And children, and for me it's a super important topic, and I think it's like really the base to actually have some change in this rotten society. So I think it's great in that sense. It's like, and it's brilliant, and really makes you think about it, and it really focuses also, because the topic is the Second World War, and it makes you think about something that is usually not too much spoken about.
The First World War.
The First World War.
Yeah.
But in any case, okay, something that you don't think about. Well, actually,
the pre-war,
connected to the second. Somehow.
Yes, of course, that's
extremely connected, and that was something also that Clem made me think about, because I didn't think about it necessarily. And it was like something that came out. You know, like you need first to absorb the film, and then after you can really think.
And that's what it's really about.
So they are the ones who will come out.
Will become the Nazis, yeah.
Exactly. So it deals also with the Second World War in a way that. I wouldn't say maybe nobody thought about, but they didn't use this perspective.
And also, it's not never explicitly stated. It's just up for your interpretation. But I think that's, for me, Haneke's genius, I think, is that he doesn't need to show off his own. He's never self-pleased at all. It remains very. Oh my God, there must be a big fire. It remains very. It's just focusing on its own story. It doesn't. And, all the interpretations you can take from there, which the film leads you to, are never shown in your face, and you have to figure them out yourself, and you have to go and get them and think about them more and more. So it really makes you do half the work, and that's exactly the dynamic I want between the art and myself. But yeah, what's your number 5? Because we should move.
I know, yeah, it's Cachet.
Yeah, true. Sorry.
No. Yes, and for me it's the same. Like it's okay. I thought okay, I want Haneke in any case, and I want Cachet because I very much like, yes, again, the work that is given to the spectator, but also I think that he is very also quite explicit symbolism, but still you have to figure out, but also at the same time it deals with the theme of guilt, which is not necessarily among my favorites, although extremely important, but it deals in a very not explicit way. Oh, well, actually, no, it's very explicit. I don't know. But it talks about something that I think it's important to reflect collectively. And I think that collective dimension is one of the most important things. And one of the most important works of his, elements of his work. And it's where we start to actually collectively take action and reflect on some things. So I think that is among the best rates.
Salut Jeannette, ça va bien?
Très bien, merci. Et vous?
Oui, ça va. J'ai pas oublié votre bouquin. Je les ai appelés la semaine dernière, mais c'est pas arrivé.
Ça presse pas.
Et je vais voir, c'est peut-être arrivé au courrier d'aujourd'hui. Bonjour. Bonjour. Vous avez parlé avec Madame Lambert?
Oui, il va vous apporter les dossiers dans
Monsieur Laurent?
3 jours.
Oui. Pourrais-je vous parler, je vous prie, monsieur?
This set, my number 4, is by a director that we are quite obsessed with recently, who is
David Lynch, I guess.
David Lynch, and it's Inland Empire.
Interesting.
Inland Empire and not Mulholland Drive.
Do you have Mulholland Drive?
I don't have Mulholland
Yeah,
Drive.
Mulholland Drive is my number 3, so we can talk about both, maybe, or Lynch in
Okay.
general at this point.
Okay, interesting. Because I wanted to give, of course, I prefer in a certain way Mulholland Drive. But since I don't have space for all the directors in the world, and I already left out Céline Sciamma, not as a director, because she's on the top probably 3 directors, but with the films, I couldn't choose too many. So I chose Inland Empire because it's the most absurd, but that makes completely sense. Technically crazy, stylistically crazy, great acting, engaging, but also confusing film that I've ever seen in my life. And I think if this is not art and pure cinema playing with the subject, what is that?
Yeah, it's very meta. Yeah, I think also I was going to say about Mulholland Drive when I talked about it. It's like it does also the thing of Haneke of it makes you think, and same with Inland Empire. They're films that give you the answers in a mystical type of way and in a very abstract way, and are like, okay, figure that out, figure out what it means on a human level. And I think the process of engaging with those films, both of them which we had, is extremely rewarding. But I'm actually surprised you've put in and not put in Mulholland Drive. I expected you to put it in.
Me too, but it's too classic in a certain way. And if I have to choose one of Lynch at this point of the list, I go with the crazy one. Although Mulholland Drive is great, but since I have some, it's like even spoiler again, but The Handmaiden I didn't put, but for me it's one of the best films in any case. Although there are some issues in terms of sexism, which Mulholland Drive also presents, even if it could be much worse.
That's true.
But some things I didn't love, and therefore it's not there.
That's true. But I expected one of the others, and it's true. It's one of those things where you have to say like that's real genius, like from an artist.
Mulholland Drive.
Both.
Yeah, both.
Because they
it's crazy.
Because they manage in the world of dreams in an extremely surrealist way to firstly affect the viewer in a number of different emotions. Like they managed to, and the same was like for me, it's actually the same with Twin Peaks. They managed to touch you, they managed to scare you, they managed to make you laugh, and they managed to make you tense. So all these registers that some films don't manage any of them at all, and some films only manage one, and they usually manage all four. And all of that without sticking to the rules of film, mostly. I mean, certainly in terms of the normative storytelling of Hollywood. And so that's, and also they're fantastically shot, and the sound is brilliant, the music is brilliant. I mean, I was listening to the score of Mulholland Drive by Angelo Badalamenti. It's just incredible. It's a brilliant piece of music.
It's quite a lot with Badalamenti. Yeah, no, I agree, and even like really the acting. If I think about Naomi Watts in Mulholland Drive,
Laura Dern in Inland Empire.
Laura Dern, and they both also are great in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
That we are now we only have 2 episodes left.
I've already seen it.
He already saw it. That's his first rewatch with me.
No, that's it. Yeah, I'm glad we both had that. So I had him in third, though, which means
that's your fourth.
I'll say my fourth. Yeah. You haven't included, I guess, at this point. My fourth is Long Day's Journey into Night.
No, I have not. I thought about it though.
Yeah, I said since when the theme of dreams.
I just thought that you would have mentioned it in your top. Therefore, I thought, okay, we will discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but no, for me, it's got to be one of the best films I've ever seen.
And we watched it in the cinema, and that was the best way to watch it, I guess.
It's got probably the most impressive. Technically, definitely the best way to watch it. It's one of those films that is also visually stunning. It's probably got the most technically impressive the music is really dreamy.
But dreamy in the opposite way of Lynch, as we said, like not a nightmare.
Well, it's like I had, for me, like that film or Began's work in general is the reverie to Lynch's nightmare. So Lynch's films are like a step into this nightmare, or at least like this panicked fever dream, whereas Began's exactly replicate the reverie, or like it's not a happy dream, but it's an entirely dreamlike world, but not necessarily in a negative way, almost in a more magical way. And I think creating that dreamlike magic, I've put them close. I've put Mulholland Drive just one above, but I could have switched them around because I think they're both essentially equally impressive. It's also extremely ambiguous. Also, I like Lynch. It's very abstract. It's got these amazing long take that like carries us through through the sky and through this like magical scene. Yeah, it's just brilliant.
And I thought for that reason actually should be.
It's really like a masterpiece, and it has to be. For me, it has to be in the top 10. It has to be in the top 5. But no, so Lynch and Began obviously share similarities. Maybe the reason I put Lynch one above is because of he did it first.
I say Began is a
2018, Long Day's Journey.
2018.
Brilliant film, and I think for me,
it's brilliant, really. It's really brilliant.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So Long Day's Journey into Night.
It is my number 4.
Watch it if you can in the cinema. Much better.
And I've already said my number 3, so you can do your number 3.
Because my number 4 I already said, which is Inland Empire, and my number 3 is Princess Mononoke.
Well, we already
about which we talked already.
Brilliant, yeah, brilliant. I'm glad to see it's so far up your list as well.
Yes, because I thought, okay, to be honest, I love animation, and as I said, like it brings together 300,000 words in a very brilliant way for adults and children, and I think this is one of the most difficult things to do, because really, like, you have to use different registers and different languages, cinematic and any language different, and make it successful in both spheres. For me, this is one of the hardest things in the world.
I agree. And I also was thinking, I just said, like, oh, the reason these are like the 5 is because they stay with you for weeks. But I think for Simone K also does, just in a different way. It's less, it doesn't torture you as much. You're not thinking about it like you are about Lynch or Haneke, but you're still fascinated by the beauty. You want to listen to the soundtrack, some scenes you want to rewatch, and yeah, brilliant.
Yes, and really is. And the topics makes you reflect upon some topics. I think, especially if you're, as a kid, it's important to reflect upon this in a mature way and not in this is good and this is bad.
It's crazy how many films we both have. Yeah, so we're now both in our top.
So now it's my turn to say
your
the
third.
Second. No, the second. This was the third.
Oh, no, I haven't said my third. I have. It was my drive. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you want to do your second?
Oh, no, it's your turn to say the second.
Up to you.
See, then you said it.
I can do the second then. Or you?
No, I said the second. Okay, then allora.
I think we might have similar one.
You maybe have no, because this one you didn't put. I know for sure because you said it. Since my list is male dominating so far, it's only directed by men. My list.
Yeah.
Although Celine Sciamma honored, she's among the best directors.
But I know your top 2 then.
And I know you know. And then my second is The Watermelon Woman by Cheryl Duniel, 1996. And this is simply like a brilliant mockumentary. I think the technique is great. Is again her with an idea, a purpose, and a camera, a 60 millimeter that you can bring around, and she goes around like shooting her documentary, which is actually based on a fake story, but it's so true at the same time, because she's looking for this watermelon woman who is a character of the actress on this film that reminds Gone with the Wind, and she's a black actress, of course. And but in the credits, the only name that comes out is The Watermelon Woman. So she's like, what is like, this name?
Yeah, hunt for part of the past type story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But what is her name? Who is she really? And so, of course, you're bringing up the fact that they have no names. A part of history has been cancelled.
Yeah.
What comes out is that she's a lesbian. She was a lesbian, and how the cinema industry operates with her, and with the black people in general, with female in general, and with lesbians too, and queer people. So it's all this thing together with showing her life and maybe interracial relationships and sexual relationship, freely talking about sex and showing sex in an absolutely not exploiting way with a female gaze. I don't know. For me, it's like, oh, it's great. It doesn't last longer. It's funny. It's fresh. It's she's 25 years old when she shoots it, when she has the idea and everything. 25 years old, you're fucking young. So it's people who are claiming their own voice, doing it with the tools that they have. And for me, this is brilliant cinema. So it really deserves to be top 2.
No, yeah, definitely.
And in general, deserves to be seen. And it's not seen that much. And it's still very, like, one of the two
historically very rare, I think, in terms of the way in which it was
and
made.
Also is mixing the reality and fantasy, and fiction, and then is making you think, but is the fiction so fake, or is it actually the real reality?
You know, it's 2 for 1 Monday through Thursday.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time deciding. What do you think? Cleopatra Jones, Jason's Lyric, or a personal best?
And also, it's got a brilliant soundtrack.
Yes.
And it operates on many levels. It has many layers to the like meta textual, because on some layers it's a documentary, on other layers it's a fake documentary, on other layers it's like the story of the character, of the fictional story of the characters. No, it's brilliant.
With different tones again, it's like you can laugh, cry, and be astonished, and be like angry as fuck. I don't know. I think it's really brilliant.
But I didn't include it. I didn't consider it.
Yeah, because you said it exactly.
But yeah, no. There's a few films I think, like a few brilliant documentaries, or not documentaries, because it's not a documentary, but I don't know. It's like, and neither is Battle of Algiers, for example. But I didn't include them because I wanted to focus on that type of film, I guess.
Have you considered La Haine? Because I considered it together with the Battle of Algiers.
I didn't put it on the list, but I could have done.
I know.
I mean, no, I wouldn't put it top. It's not.
No,
I wouldn't put it as the best film.
Some things are cool.
I think it's a bit. No. It's brilliant, but it's not. A bit derivative, also, I was going to say. Because if I put Leyen and I don't put Scorsese, then who did it first, really?
Oh, you didn't put Scorsese?
But no. I've only got 2 left. And my number 2, which I assume is your number 1, is Jean Denman. So, I guess we can talk about...
Cazzo, you put Scorsese?
No, I don't have a Scorsese on my list.
True.
Unfortunately,
He's a fan of Scorsese.
I didn't know which one to put.
Top directors of Clem.
But yeah, so number 2 is Jean Denman, but I guess we'll talk about that. And you can know what my number 1 is as well then.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Cachet, which we already talked about.
Cachet number 1, Jean Denman number 1. Plot twist.
So yeah, Jean Denman, which was recently voted the best film of all time by the Sight and Sound. Yeah, it's been...
For a few decades it's been...
no, just in 2022 it was voted for the first time the best film ever.
But in the past, I know exactly, but in the past...
It was never included, but then it became... maybe it was included, but not in the top 10.
Yeah, no.
Well, no, yeah, brilliant. I mean
no, but I don't have much to say besides it's crazy. I love how it's a super long film because it's 3 hours something.
Yeah.
And Jean Denman 23, Bruxelles, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, Rue du Commerce.
By Chantal Akerman, 1975.
It's minimalist.
It's essential. You are with her. It's long because it needs to be long, because you need to feel the life of a woman, in this case in the 70s, living her life within the role that is associated to her, like that she has to accomplish. And it's unbearable in certain level. It's boring. It's not the film, also the film sometimes, but just because it's slow, it's extremely slow. You are with her in the routine. Although it's interesting, to be honest, but
I wouldn't necessarily say I think
no, it's not boring.
It's slow, definitely, but it's also engaging because you want to become engaged with her life. Become engaged with her life. It's like someone you know, right? And that's why it's so. And because it's so much in the realistic. It's so much in the realistic modality that it becomes that then. The way the direction in which the film goes ends up being all the more interesting. I'm trying to not spoil anything. I don't know, just making vague statements.
Yeah, also because okay, let's say then your feelings, your emotions accompanying the film makes it even more engaging and intriguing and less slow somehow than it can actually be. Mm-hmm. As in, you can get angry, frustrated, sympathizing with her and with potentially other characters. I don't know. There is a lot going on in you while you're watching.
Just watch it if you haven't seen
especially with the lenses of today.
Because definitely
definitely.
And no, it's brilliant.
You first,
Gashi. Yeah, I mean, we already talked about it, but that's interesting because I didn't think I was going to put it first at some point, but then I was like, I couldn't think of another one to put above it, and couldn't think of a really good reason to put anything above it. So, No, because I think it has something on all of the other films for me. Maybe because I saw it earlier in my life, or maybe because I'm French.
2005.
So it's a story about French collective guilt and the way in which France has behaved in its colonial history. It's not directly about that, but I think that's a big part of it. But also, I think, as usual with Haneke, it's got brilliant characters, brilliant acting, brilliant writing. It's also like a thriller that I think I was more engaged in than maybe any other film when I first watched, because I was absolutely desperate to know. I mean, you fell asleep actually, but I was desperate to know
I was fell asleep because I was
the
tired.
answer to the. I really wanted to know who'd been sending the notes and who'd been videotaping the house and who'd been traumatizing this family in this way. And the more you think about the film, you realize that none of those things matter at all. But it's brilliant on many levels, and it's
thing, I think.
it's I don't know. I've recommended it to a few people, and I'm always really happy to hear what they think about it. And it's got really this amazing ambiguity that sticks with you, as we said, for weeks after the film, and you're trying to figure out the meaning of every scene. And with Cachet, it really is like a puzzle that I still think now, like, oh, maybe one day I'll understand everything, but maybe not. But no, brilliant film, and criminally underrated on Letterboxds. I think it's not even in the top 250. If it is, it's just barely. But anyway, so I think we should go through some. I mean, for example, like none of us talked about The Godfather, which is often cited as the best film of all time.
See, but for me, it's cool. Yes, I also watched it 300,000 years ago. I watched it also because I'm Italian, you know, and I took a course of sociology of organized criminality. Vabbè. In any case, mafia related, and we were talking about the mafia with an important professor, and he was telling us, like, look, The Godfather, many things are very accurate, many details, blah blah. So that was also very interesting and historically accurate. They said top 10, it seems a bit too much.
No, I mean, I wouldn't. It's not. Again, it's like, did we do favorite or did we do best? For me, I did the ones I consider to be the best, and for me, these films I would put above The Godfather.
Yeah.
Do you want to before we wrap up, because we've been talking for ages? Do you want to quickly cite some that were close to being in your list?
Allora, I thought about Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane, not because I loved it specifically, but once you know the story, once you know how many rules have been invented or broken, how many innovations and innovative ideas are there, and the fact that he was so young when he did it, he made it. And also the fact that he didn't have a limit, which is super great and interesting. Should it be in the top 10? Yes. Do I want to switch with some other films that I put? Not really. Maybe with Shining.
We've generally put more recent films, which is maybe... I thought Sunset Boulevard as well could have been on mine. Late Spring by Ozu.
I also thought about Late Spring.
Yeah,
I wrote it. Would I have thought about Sentimental Value?
No.
Okay.
Yes, I could have, but no, it was not even in my close ones. I'll tell you my close ones because I wrote down. So the ones that were close to being in there for me were Parasite, Sunset Boulevard, Children of Men, Seven Samurai, Late Spring, Stalker, City of God, which brilliant film.
I thought about it.
Twin Peaks: The Return, which I decided not to, but if I hadn't,
because
probably would have been included. From probably pretty high, to be honest. And Amour by Haneke, which I didn't want to include too many Hanekes, but I felt sorry to leave it out because it's so brilliant.
And for me, it was Tokyo Godfathers.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought it's another very interesting. Late Spring, Mulholland Drive, we discussed it. The Battle of Algiers, The White Ribbon, After Sun, because that's among my top 4. And Where is the Friend's House by Kiarostami, because that's also very, very beautiful. And also special mention to Wes Anderson, because to be honest, I very much like The Grand Budapest Hotel, but not enough to put in the top 10. Personally, I very much liked it, but it misses a lot of important subject.
There's so many brilliant films out there that it's so hard to do this list, and there's just
The Pan's Labyrinth.
I wouldn't put it, I think.
Because when I watched it, I wasn't ready to watch it and understand it completely. So I would like to rewatch it. Of course, Petit Maman, I didn't mention it, but of course.
But yeah, no. So yeah, just because we haven't mentioned a film doesn't mean we don't think it's great. It's just, there's too many films, we probably forgot many.
Yeah, I mean, we went through, I guess, our top rated films, but even there it's very hard. But and again, like some of our top 10 are not 5 stars in our personal list.
No, only one of mine is Mulholland Drive, which is 4.5. But maybe, honestly, it should be 5, and I probably will change those.
Interesting that not even in the top 10, in the top 3.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like undeniably brilliant. That's my thing.
No, I know.
You know what I mean?
See. I don't know if I gave 5 stars to Princess Mononoke and Inland Empire. Caché, yes, in the end. Shining, I don't know. But
anyway,
we'll find out.
But no, so yeah, please tell us your lists.
Yeah, it's so hard. You will find out that it's so fucking hard to make it. It's hard. And it can change throughout times. And again, definitely. I don't know if in the end I will change because I don't know where to put Petit Maman, but it's true that it's supposed to be there.
Well, if you have any decision and change of heart before we upload the video, you can let me know. Well, we can.
Yeah,
you can
we
put
will
it
let
in
you
the
know.
comment. But yeah, no. So please let us know your top 10. Like, subscribe, and thank you for watching.
Bye.
And see you in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.